Yo, Friday night, 7:30-ish. It's your boys, the PlayCallers. We live, we in the building, and we get ready to talk two very important things with y'all tonight. Number one, we're gonna go over this NBA trade deadline thoughts, recap real quick, all that good stuff. Of course, we're gonna talk about the NFL awards. And then I didn't even have to put it, but I hope everybody understands Super Bowl is Sunday. So we will be discussing Super Bowl as well. But there's one other thing I want to drive in there to begin the show in the world of professional wrestling. So they did a WrestleMania preview show. And had a couple things happen. And one of the things that is important, a lot of people are talking about, and I don't know if my co-host got any information on this, but basically they had this segment where Seth Rollins came out, told Cody to come out and make his decision. Roman Reigns comes out. They have a little banter back and forth about how Roman Reigns actually did show up. Seth says, Roman says, "Oh, look at you wearing your wife's shoes," and continues to talk about how he's the second-rate champion. They kind of look back and forth with that. So then Roman Reigns decides he's going to pick his own opponent for WrestleMania. So he picks The Rock. The Rock comes out. They shake hands like they're solidifying something. So then Cody comes out and says, "I'm sick of this BS." And he says, "I want a Royal Rumble. I get the opportunity. I'm picking Roman Reigns." So then he runs down Roman, tells Roman how his family would be ashamed of him, his grandfather. Would be ashamed. So then The Rock jumps in front of Roman Reigns. Well, they're standing beside each other, but kind of steps up to Cody and says, "You talk about Roman Reigns' blood, you're talking about my blood. You talk about Roman Reigns' family, you're talking about my family." And he slaps Cody. He straight slaps Cody Rhodes. And Cody doesn't slap him back. They grab Cody, they pull him off. Seth in the background, when he's walking off, he's yelling at him. He tells them that they don't run they had no right to do that, whatever. He tells Roman, basically, he tells Rock, "I don't care if you're on the board, that's BS." Right? So long story short, goes through all that. And we get what most people want. In some fashion, we're going to get it. Royal Rumble winner has officially made his decision, and it's going to be the WWE Universal World Championship match between Cody Rhodes and right now Roman Reigns. This was changed definitely based on fan reaction, no doubt about it. But we'll see how things continue to play out throughout the next few months. But that's right now, as of now, that'll be your marquee match for WrestleMania. There were a couple of other matches that were set up there. We may talk a little bit about WrestleMania as we get closer to it a couple months from now. But the fact that the grown man got slapped and the other guy didn't get slapped back, that's a problem for me. You know what I'm saying? You letting dudes walk around and smack you. You're not looking like a tough guy, right? And CM Punk even said it. He was doing like the commentary for it. And he was saying like, "I don't care who you are, boss or not." And make no mistake about it. The Rock is just not a guy coming in. The Rock runs the WWE now. The seat that Vincent Kennedy McMahon had to vacate because of all his infidelities and everything else, The Rock got that seat. That's how he has the name The Rock now, that he can use, and it's his now. So he's basically the guy over WWE. He's over Nick Khan. He's over Triple H. He's over all these guys because of where he was hired at. So I like the fact that there was at least a little listening going on with what the fans were feeling. The Rock did go on Pat McAfee's show earlier yesterday and call a group of Cody Rhodes fans the Cody Crybabies. So this incident, to me, at least says, for now, the Rock's going with the heelish role. I like it. It's a different twist, something different. Just want to throw it out there for those of you who might be interested in, professional wrestling, at least as we get closer to the WrestleManias. So, Box, any thoughts on that before we dig into all this other wonderful information that we have for the good people tonight?
Well, man, the Cody Crybabies got what they wanted. But, of course, they had to do something to let you know that They're not going to give you everything you want. That they don't really care about your happiness. That's why Cody got slapped and they slapped nobody back. That was basically, you could look at this from the standpoint that Cody Rhodes didn't get slapped. The Cody Crybabies got slapped. That's really what WWE was really. That was the message they were sending.
Well, I'll say this. Just to be clear, as someone who's a Cody Rhodes fan, I don't care The Rock's this mammoth guy. You look in my face, call me a crybaby, I'm gonna slap you. If I get beat down afterwards, it is what it is. But you're gonna get slapped and you call me a Cody crybaby. How about that? Well, you're not calling me that.
Well, technically, he did say that there's the Cody crybabies, then there's Cody fans, and then there's Cody himself. He said those are three very different things.
I'm just saying.
So you could decide for yourself, sir, if you're in the Cody crybaby or in the Cody fan category.
I'm just saying. If anybody walks up to me and calls me a Cody crybaby because I'm a Cody Rhodes fan, you are getting slapped like The Rock slapped Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know, sir.
I'm just letting you know because I don't think he has the ability to differentiate because I don't think he really cares. Though real talk, simply speaking, he was really talking to all Cody fans.
No,
but
I don't think
no,
so.
He was.
Because
I saw the interview. He was.
I mean, here's the thing, man. You have.
He was really talking to all of us.
I mean, just like Cam Newton was meaning to insult Brock Purdy. So there you go.
No, he was really talking to all of us. I could tell through the wordage, but he wanted to make sure that those that are still like him, that are Cody fans, that he's putting them in a separate group. He's really not. But it's okay, though, because you know what? It's all theater. See, the difference between that and the Cam Newton situation is it's all theater. This is there to make people want to. Oh, let me finish. This is all here just to make people talk about it. This is all here to get people riled up because that's all that The Rock wants to do. He doesn't care if it's bad publicity. He doesn't care if it's good publicity. He just wants people talking about WWE. You know, they packed thousands of people in an event in Las Vegas where the Super Bowl is at on a Thursday night to make an announcement about who Cody was going to fight and a couple of other different things and call it a WrestleMania kickoff. That's impressive. What I want people to catch from this is however you feel about the main event, the people involved, or whatever, you're packing people in. You got people popping up, including myself, doing shows yesterday about WWE on a Thursday. That's impressive in itself. So whatever the outcome is they're wanting to get to, the fact that they're able to do this, kudos to Rock's brain for being able to make this work. So that's the point I really want everybody to remember. And of course, everybody's going to remember the slap. Cody, not because I'm a fan, but because I'm a fellow man. I don't care what the script is. Dude, slap me. We got to go off script. You got to get one back. So sometime in the next week, Cody, I expect you to get your lick back. And it's got to also be an open hand slap. It can't be no punch. It's got to be an open hand slap. Matter of fact, if you really want to throw it on a stick, do a little fake spit in there and cock back. But you got to get your slap back. As a man, you got to get your slap back. But kudos to the story. I love the extra layers that they're adding to the story. All right, so we will now move on to NBA trade deadline. Yesterday, February 8th, I believe it was 4 p.m. If I remember correctly, the time may be off. We entered the NBA trade deadline. So all the moves that were going to be made were made. So there are still some rumors that certain people are going to be cut, right, or bought out, I should say. We'll see how that continues to play out in the next few days. And then as that plays out, we'll give you some info on it next week once everything's done. And those people have made decisions on where they're going to go. But in the meantime, we had some trades. Some were not of much importance. Some were, slightly important. So the first one we'll talk about is the Pistons acquired Simone Fontecchio, and I may not have said that correctly, from the Jazz. The Jazz received back Kevin Knox, a future second-round pick, and the rights to Gabriel Procida, who obviously is a player overseas that hasn't, played here in America yet. Simone I mean, he's obviously the better piece of this trade, but still a rotational piece, right? This is not a guy that you're going to bring in and have in a starting role or anything. It's just a guy to be a rotational piece in Detroit because Detroit did cut a player themselves, so they had a roster spot to fill. This gives them still someone that they can get in the buyout market, but they were able to upgrade from Kevin Knox, which I don't see why anybody's trading for Kevin Knox unless you're going to cut him at this point. But, I guess the Jazz really wanted that second round pick and the rights to the overseas player. Box, any thoughts on this, sir?
No, I mean, not really, man. I do feel like, at the end of the day, the Jazz probably came out a little bit better on this. But it's not a needle mover trade, so we don't really need to spend a lot of time on it.
Agreed. Now, before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, got to remind you who we are.
The play callers.
I decided not to hit y'all with it right away because that's just what I felt in my bones. All right, so we're going to move on. Next trade. Corey Joseph was acquired by the Indiana Pacers. From the Indiana Pacers. Well, to the Indiana Pacers, from the Golden State Warriors. So the Pacers acquired Corey Joseph, a 2025 second-round pick that's going to go via Charlotte. So it'll be a higher second-round pick because Charlotte sucks. And then cash considerations. The Warriors got a 2024 second-round pick. So to the Golden State Warriors, Corey Joseph was worth a 2025 second-round pick, cash considerations. Had to be sent out with him as well just to get a 2024 pick. So not a lot of belief in Corey Joseph, at least on the Warrior side. Any thoughts on this one, man?
No, I mean, again, man, this is like, not really a needle mover. I mean, I feel like the Pacers probably came out a little bit better, but
I think the Warriors came out better getting the second round pick.
well, I think the cash consideration was probably a big part of it for them. They wanted to get that, so
yeah. Golden State gets them off the books, though. So I'll give you a little bit of money to get them off the books. That's important for Golden State, too, because, they're always cash strapped because of poor moves that they made, like picking up Chris Paul. But I digress. So the 76ers traded Daniel House, a 2024 second-round pick in cash considerations to the Pistons, and the Pistons sent back a 2028 second-round pick. So for this with Daniel House, right? Daniel House is a 3-and-D guy. I think Detroit needed another one of those guys, and the guy that's been around a few years, because the problem with Detroit is everybody's young and there's no steadying hand. There's not a lot of veterans in that locker room. And we see the difference a couple of veterans can make in a place like Houston. Right? Houston's fell back to the pack a little bit lately, but still, having guys that have been around that kind of know how to play, know how to be a professional in the film room, know some of those, we'll call them idiosyncrasies of the game that some of the young guys may not understand or have learn how to see them yet. I think it's a good move for Detroit, and you didn't really give up anything but a 2028 second-round pick. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think it's a pretty decent trade for both teams, honestly. This is one of those rare win-wins where there really isn't like a clear winner. So I think it actually worked out pretty well for both teams.
All right, so the Raptors got Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji from the Utah Jazz in return for Otto Porter Jr., Kira Lewis Jr., and a 2024 first-round pick. So I would say the Jazz are a team. I don't care if they're trading you a stick of bubble gum for a annihilator. They're going to get a first-round pick in that trade, too. Look at what they did to Minnesota. Ever since then, they've really been getting it. But Olynyk and Agbaji, it's not a bad combo of players to get over to Toronto. Porter and Kira Lewis Jr., they're not needle movers. Olynyk is a guy that can play at least as a backup, 4 or 5. Agbaji is a guy that's going to add, a little offense, little defense. Nothing special, but he could be a rotational piece. So I feel like the Raptors got what they needed. They were able to get rid of some contracts. They had to include a first-round pick. I don't really see a winner in this trade, honestly, either. I think this was kind of a tit for tat situation as well. Just my personal opinion. Box, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I will add there's one important detail here, which is that the pick they received is the least favorable from Houston, the Clippers, Oklahoma City, and Utah.
Well, sir, we know it's going to be the least favorable. You traded it for Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji.
Yeah. So
You're-
so to me, like, this is probably going to end up being like a bottom 5 pick. So
That's the whole point.
some people probably aren't happy about it being a first rounder, but this draft is not one that a lot of people are super excited about, especially going that deep into it. So I actually think the Raptors won this trade, not by a huge margin, but I think they won this trade.
Well, the reason I say for me it's about even is because it depends on what happens with that draft pick that the Jazz receive.
Well,
Are the Jazz going to flip it into something down the road? Are they going to use it? What are they going to do? So that's always the best thing to me about draft picks, because unlike the NFL, the NBA, they will trade those picks like they're nothing, especially when they have multiple, first round picks.
Yeah, I'm just grading it based on what we have right now, right?
Yeah, my grade's a little different. The Bucks trade Robin Lopez to the Sacramento Kings. So the Kings got Robin Lopez in cash considerations. The Bucks got draft rights to Dimitrios Agravanis. Robin Lopez played some decent minutes when his brother Brooke was hurt, but Robin's a guy that's always been a backup. So Sacramento gets another big that can, play now. Doesn't cost you a lot of money. And Milwaukee may have sent you half the money for his contract with him. So, it's not a bad move for the Kings to get some rotational piece in the post. And then they just really give the draft rights to a guy who may or may not end up playing in America.
Yeah. And from what I'm hearing, that they're probably going to end up waiving him anyway. So it's TBD.
Yeah. All right. So the Mavs got Daniel Gafford from the Wizards for Rashawn Holmes and a 2024 first round picks from the Thunder. So it's from the Mavs, but via the Thunder. The Thunder looking good, so this is probably going to be a later pick as well. Gafford's a guy who, again, there's a young group in Washington, and they weren't playing well together. So they may be sending Gafford to Dallas, who needs what? More bigs. It's a smart move if it works out. Rashawn Holmes and a first-round pick. Like I said, it's going to end up being a late pick. But a lot of times these things balance out because a team like the Thunder, who the pick is initially coming from, because the Thunder have like 5 picks in every draft forever.
Yeah.
It's going to be a later pick. So you're not giving up a lot, kind of like you were saying a few minutes ago. But it's still a first-round pick. It's still an asset that you can turn into something else down the road, because you can say, hey, we'll give you this first this year for, first of 2 years when the team we're getting from might suck. So some of those things kind of work out that way as well. But when you look at the pick, I think Mavericks got what they wanted and the Wizards got what they wanted. So both teams are happy. Not necessarily a win or lose for either team, just kind of both teams were able to fill what they feel are holes with a player, and then the Wizards were able to add a pick as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this actually worked out pretty well for all 3 teams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all got really what they needed out of this. So, I mean, again, like, none of these are like needle mover trades to me, right? So, but
they're not. All right, so the Blazers got the Celtics got a protected second-round pick. So when I see this, I always think, well, what does a protected second-round pick ever actually turn into? You know what I'm saying? Because if it's a protected first, it could turn into two seconds. So does a protected second just turn into like cash considerations or just a second-round pick? At some point, you're gonna have to give them a second-round pick. I'm not quite sure how that works out, because we don't get a lot of protected second-round picks getting traded. But the Blazers did get Delano Banton and some cash considerations. So again, Celtics say, you know what? We'll just get a future second-round pick and get rid of Delano Banton. That's basically what this was. Blazers got another guy that they can see if he's going to fit in with the time frame in a couple of years if the team's going to be any good. If not, oh well.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because the Blazer team is not good right now.
Yeah.
Then we have the Celtics. They got Jaden Springer from the 76ers for a 2024 second round pick. I actually think that this may be a pretty good move. Springer's not a bad player.
Yeah.
Right. And then to be able to get him for just a second round pick, I understand why the 76ers would want to move on from Jaden Springer. And we'll talk about some of the moves, the move that they made here in the last few minutes. But he's another guard, and Boston could use another, guy to play that point guard position, right? Doesn't have to be a starter, just a guy that can come in and give you 10, 15 minutes. So some of the things that Boston did make sense. Some of the things that Philadelphia did make sense. So we'll see why this move makes sense for Philadelphia here in a couple of minutes within these trades that we're discussing. All right, then we have. So this is one of those that I talk about, right? The Mavericks are trading their 2028 first round pick for the Thunder's 2024 first round pick. And the Thunder have so many first round picks. This is probably not their pick. It's probably one of the other picks they picked up from one of these other teams. But they did swap picks. I like it for Dallas because you need more guys on short contract, on rookie contracts because of some of the guys that you're paying. Luka's getting paid, Kyrie's getting paid. So you want to be able to surround them with some more talent. So getting more guys in the draft makes more sense than going out and signing free agents who are going to cost you more. So from that perspective, this makes sense. And the Thunder do what they do. Hey, another first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Thunder, you're looking at it from the standpoint of how many first round picks do you really need right now? Right? Like, how many guys do you need to add to this roster in the moment? Whereas Dallas, it's a little bit more of an immediate need that they might be able to use that for somebody. So, it works out. I mean, obviously, depending on what that pick ends up being in 4 years, may swing this trade one way or the other. But for right now, it's a mutually beneficial trade.
Oh, and FYI, the Thunder still have like 3 picks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like for them, they're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they still got 3 first round picks next year. All jokes aside.
I mean, the worst case scenario for them is in 4 years, they just have another pick that they could just potentially trade again or do whatever they want with. So
pretty much. All right, then we have the Bucks. So the Bucks traded Cameron Payne in a 2027 second round pick to the 76ers for Patrick Beverley. So this was a head scratcher when you look at it from the surface. Why are you trading a younger, more versatile backup guard for an older, backup guard? A couple of reasons. I'll answer. Number one, you still haven't replaced the defense that you got with Drew Holiday. Mm-hmm. You can say what you want about Patrick Beverley, but he's going to play hard defense. The minutes that he's on the floor, he's going to be a menace for the other team's point guard or shooting guard, whoever is guard. He is going to be a menace, right? He's going to give you a defensive edge that they haven't had since they had another guy that does not shoot very well and wishes that he got traded as well on their team. So this brings the Bucks some of that toughness, right? A little bit of that grit and some defense. So from that perspective, it makes sense. And all you gave up was campaign and a second round pick in 2027. So even if you're not that good in 2027, it's a second round pick. And let's be honest, no one in the NBA cares about second round picks.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is another thing where, again, not a game-changing trade for either team, but they're both getting something they want. Milwaukee gets a little bit of that defensive edge back, and the Sixers actually get a little bit more offense. So it works out well for both teams.
Well, see, the one thing I will say about this is we know that Damian Lillard doesn't really play much defense. So when you have times where you need defense, you now have a point guard that can distribute the ball and actually is a point guard. They'll play some defense that you can put in. So that from that perspective, it's a good move.
Yeah.
So another
if this was like 5 or 6 years ago, it might be a great move. but right now it's just a good move.
It's a good move right now because you can get that Pat Bev, but you can't get it a whole game. You can get it maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So the Nets got a guy that my co-host knows a little bit about, and Dennis Schroeder.
Mm-hmm.
And they also got Thaddeus Young. And the Raptors got Spencer Dinwiddie. I think the Raptors have been needing a lead guard. Dinwiddie is that. I don't feel like Schroeder was ever really the lead guard that was expected to be in Toronto. Maybe the Knicks can make it work. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, again, man, this is not really like a huge one. I think both teams kind of got a little bit of what they're looking for here. Obviously, Toronto, this is all about prioritizing flexibility for them to me, right? I mean, that's really what this comes down to.
Yep. What up, AP? AP says Pat going to be in Giannis' face. Well, he might be in Giannis' face, but I know one person who wasn't in his face, the coach, and that's why they got rid of him. All right. So the next trade, we got the New York Knicks. They receive Alec Burks and Bogdan Bogdanovic. The Pistons get Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, Ron Archiadanko, 2 future second-round picks and cash considerations. So clearly, the Knicks felt like these 2 guys would be better than 4 guys, some second-round picks and cash. And the Knicks were right because the one thing about Bogdanovic is he's a guy that on any given night can drop you 25, 30 points, right? So when you have some other people on your team that are injured, they made a trade for Anunoby, and then he's out injured. Shoulder surgery. Elbow surgery. So maybe you feel like a guy like Bogdanovic in that time where he's going to be out can step in and be a scorer. And Alex Burks is a veteran guard. He can step in. He can play. He doesn't require a lot of minutes, but he's going to be a consummate professional when he's on the floor. So this is a good move, I feel like, because it gives this team more flexibility and pieces to help get through the regular season. Now, what bearing this will have on the playoffs, Bogdanovic could still give you a couple of those games. He may can win you a game in a series that you would normally win if he can get hot. So I think it's more for the regular season, but it'll have a little bit of a positive impact on the postseason for the Knicks as well. The Pistons do what the Pistons do. You know what I'm saying? We got some guys we thought were going to bring in was going to help us be better. They're not. We suck anyway. So we might as well start getting rid of people and getting expiring contracts. We can get rid of it and have some money to try to entice somebody to come play with us.
Yeah, I mean, I think this actually is a pretty good deal for the Pistons, all things considered. But the Knicks definitely got the better of this deal, right? I mean, you got rid of Quickly, you got rid of Barrett, and then, like you said, nobody gets injured. So now, and then let's also not forget that Julius Randle's shoulders dislocated. So right now you are lacking any kind of ball handling. You're kind of struggling with some of the scoring, things like that. So this gives you an immediate fix there. And then on top of that, come playoff time, now you have quality depth guys that you can bring in. You can go with a hot hand in a playoff series. You've given yourself options for when you actually get guys back healthy.
And as a seller, I'm not mad at the Hornets. So the Hornets traded Gordon Hayward to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the fact that they got anything back is a miracle. So they got the Thunder sent Vasily Micic, Trey Mann, and Davis Bertrands, along with a 2024 second-round pick that's from the Rockets, who it could end up being lottery or close to lottery, and then a 2025 second-round pick from the 76ers. So not a bad haul for the Hornets, all things considered, for a guy that basically is peanut brittle. So, I mean, I really say kudos to them for getting anything. So people may not appreciate the fact that I said that, but that's the truth. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think this again is something that really works out for both people, for both teams here, right? The Hornets, like you said, we're lucky to probably get what they got. And the Thunder feel like, hey, we filled a need that we had on our roster. So yeah, everybody wins.
Yes, you need somebody to be on IR. I said it.
You said it.
Somebody had to say it. Somebody had to say it. This dude is always hurt, bro. Like he's always hurt.
I mean, but you're kind of hoping, right, that maybe with all the pieces that you already have, that you can kind of manage it a little bit, maybe not overextend him and keep him on the floor. That's kind of what you're hoping, right? I mean, even if he ends up back where he usually is, then yeah, that's kind of changes things. But
They can afford to make this move again, right? They can afford to make this,
mhm.
and his knowledge may be more integral to them than his actual being able to play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like his knowledge may be more important. So not a bad deal. Just saying this is a guy that, you have to understand it's gonna be hurt. All right. So the Suns had a nice little 3-team deal here. So the Suns got Royce O'Neal and David Roddy, 2 more pieces that they can have on that bench. That bench need help. That's for sure. The Grizzlies got a 2026 first-round pick swap with the Suns. Chimize Mitu from the Suns and Yuta Watanabe from the Suns. All right. The Nets received Keita Bates-Diop from the Suns, Jordan Goodwin from the Suns, the draft rights to Vanja Markovic from the Grizzlies, and 3 future second-round picks from the Suns. So a lot happened there, but I'll simply say the Suns got depth that they needed. The Grizzlies got a first-round pick swap. You're obviously you're thinking, oh, well, hopefully, Suns might not be as good as right now, or you're thinking, I'm gonna just take this pick and I'm gonna just chill with it because we're gonna be better anyway, as far as getting a draft pick. So we'll see how that works out. They may trade trade those rights to someone else. You never know what they're gonna do. The Nets, you got a couple of guys, but basically you got the draft rights to an overseas player and 3 second-round picks. Your thoughts on this trade, sir?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the Nets did okay here. The Suns did great for themselves, right? I mean, this was a huge win for the Suns because, as you said, that bench is in desperate need of some depth.
Atrocious.
But the Grizzlies, I don't know what they're doing. I feel like the maybe this all kind of comes down to you're trying to save some money for luxury tax concerns, right? Like that's really the only thing that makes sense to me of why they're making some of these moves, right? I mean, I can't think of anything outside of just wanting to save some money that this benefits them. I mean, maybe depending on what the pick swap ends up being, could be some value there, but yeah, that, it's not likely, but just throwing it out there.
So the 76ers made up. Actually, this is one of those moves that it's actually smart, right? Not just we just made it whatever move. So the 76ers acquire the services of Buddy Hield, right? Buddy Hield, one of the better 3-point shooters. There's been some talk of Sacramento moving him for a while, so he's finally getting moved. Well, the Pacers moving him, because he was in Sacramento with the Pacers. The Pacers moving him, so he was were able to do that. The Pacers got back from the 76ers Furkan Korkmaz, who actually is not a bad player. Doesn't get a lot of time. He was on the Nuggets a couple years ago, so have some knowledge of him. And then, of course, the sharpshooting Doug McDermott, who hasn't played as well as expected with the Spurs. So they're able to kind of get that contract off their books. The Spurs are. He gets to go to a team where he can probably fit into the role that he is best suited for more. Maybe that's a catch and shoot guy with other offensive juggernauts around him, and not in San Antonio where there's really not. There's Wembyana and then a bunch of other guys. The Pacers also get a 2024 second round pick from the Raptors and a 2029 second round pick from the Blazers, as well as cash considerations for the 76ers. Now, the Spurs, for their part of the deal, they get Marcus Morris, who the Morris guys are gritty guys. They shoot, they play defense, they're gritty. Um, they're going to add a little bit more toughness to that Spurs team who doesn't look tough at all. So, from that perspective, not bad, but not a great like needle mover move for you. But the Spurs are going to be bad this year either way. So, maybe this helps guys like Wembanyama toughen up a little bit. They also receive a 2029 second round pick from the Clippers and cash considerations. And I want to say, based on how that team is right now, that 2029 pick from the Clippers could be a early second round pick. By 2029, a couple of Clippers are not going to be here anymore. What are your thoughts on that trade, man?
Listen, it's hard for me to get excited about something that might happen in 5 years, right? Just throwing that out there. Um, it's funny also to me the fact that a lot of these trades, like people, some teams just like they'll just throw trades and they're like, okay, whatever. Like how many second round picks do we need to give you over the next 5 years? Here you go, whatever. And then other people are just like stacking them up like they're valuable. So it's really interesting to see how different teams perceive this. To me, the only reason this even makes a little bit of sense for Indiana is you are probably going to lose him next year anyways in free agency. So at least now you're getting something in return.
They get
But
his money
this,
out the books.
but considering how bad the 76ers have been at 3-point shooting this year, this is absolutely huge for them.
Absolutely. And then the one that kind of slid in there late. Some people may have caught it when it happened. Some people may not have. Dallas Mavericks made another move. So the Dallas Mavericks got PJ Washington, a 2024 and a 2028 second round pick from the Charlotte Hornets. And the Hornets received Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 first round pick. Now, obviously, if you're the Hornets, the two pieces in this trade that are important are the 2027 first round pick, because again, they're a team that they're going to be bad for some years. So they're going to already have a high pick from themselves. So to have a second first round pick, so say you actually are a little bit better, you think you're middle of the road, you compare that with your own pick that year and probably move up in the top, couple of spots, top 5, and try to get another really good player. Also, Grant Williams, when he was with Boston, he was a really good player. He started off good with the Mavs, but then we all know he fell out of favor, right? A lot of reports are things in the locker room, his attitude and different things like that. And honestly, probably didn't want to go to the Mavs, right? Or when he went, he thought it was going to be different than what happened when he got there. So that happens from time to time. But whatever the reason, he's a good versatile piece. And then Seth Curry, he's always been not his brother, Steph, but he's always been a solid shooter. Back to the Carolinas from North Carolina, played college basketball at Duke. So back in the Carolinas, sometimes it'd be a little boost for you. Get back around your family. You get back where you're comfortable, and you play pretty good. And Curry, like I said, he's always made shots wherever he's went. Never really worked on his defense, but he can make shots wherever he goes. Your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Hornets actually did pretty good here for themselves, right? And you got a lot of really good value for Washington. I think it's a good fit for Dallas, and we'll see if it pans out or not. But I was actually looking at this, and this is basically what will tell you about the trade. If you go back to the sign and trade that landed them Williams, right? The Mavericks have now basically turned a 2027 first rounder and an unprotected 2030 first round swap into PJ Washington. That is not a win. But I mean, hey, look, sometimes you just have to say, hey, we made a mistake and move on from it. And, it might work out for them, but in the moment, it doesn't look good. We'll see. We'll see long term. I think he's a good fit, so it could end up working out for them. But we'll see.
With the Hornets, man, nothing works out. So he'll probably be better once he's off the Hornets, man. He probably will be. AP got a couple of comments here before we slide over to the NFL. So AP says, "Been here for 20 minutes. I see traded picks don't mean nothing. Nothing at all." AP also says Curry
depends on the team, but yeah.
Then AP says Curry be getting traded every year and always comes back to Dallas. That is true. This dude been to Dallas like 5 times.
Stockholm
And Curry
syndrome.
done played for more teams than his pops because he be everywhere.
Stockholm syndrome, bro.
Yeah. Hey man, somehow he just love to get back there. You know how it be. Could be that Stockholm. So before we dig into the Super Bowl, there's one other thing we got to talk about here real quick, and that's the NFL awards. So as I predicted, and many others, comeback player of the year. There was really only one guy that really fit this mold, and that was the guy called Mr. Flacco himself, Joe Flacco. And the reason why I say that fit for him is because he actually played, right? There's another guy that was being thrown around, but he didn't play. It's like giving an MVP award to somebody who plays 3 games. We can't do that.
I don't have a problem with Flacco winning, but personally, my vote was Baker Mayfield. Because he actually played an entire season, and he took a Tampa team that we all expected to probably finish dead last or next to last in the division, and made the playoffs and won a playoff game. So to me, I mean, I know that the playoff win isn't supposed to factor into it, but to me, I think Baker was a little bit better story. But I'm not mad about Joe Flacco.
Fair enough. Coach of the year. So this was the same guy who was also coach of the year in 2020. He has returned to being coach of the year. And that's Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. There's another guy that a lot of people are going to talk about and say he should be the coach of the year. But remember something. Stefanski took this Cleveland team to 11-6. They lost their quarterback at Deshaun Watson to a shoulder injury. They lost their starting running back, Nick Chubb, to a knee. And Chubb was gone pretty early in the season. They also became the first team since '87 to start 5 different QBs in the season. Still set a franchise record winning score in the final 2 minutes of regulation on 5 occasions, right? So a lot of positive things happened for Kevin Stefanski. And while based on how bad a certain team was last year and how they improved, we want to make the argument that there should be another guy that could win this award. There's always going to be at least one other person in consideration for most of the awards, right? But I do believe, personally speaking, this was the right pick. But there's another guy who, if he had won instead, I know you're going to talk about this, so I'm just saying if he won instead, I wouldn't be upset either.
So the other guy is D'Amico Ryans, right? And this is what I look at. So they actually both finished with exactly 165 points in the voting. Okay. Stefanski had 21 first place votes. D'Amico Ryan had 20. But Stefanski also had 18 second place and 6 third place versus 21 second place and 2 third place for D'Amico Ryan. So in other words, you had 6 people that thought that Stefanski was actually should have been number 3. Right? So I feel like overall, even though they had the exact same number of points, and I think Stefanski really just won because he had one more first place vote. I think the overall voting shows that more people actually thought D'Amico Ryans deserved it. Uh, Again, this is not one I'm super upset about because Stefanski did a phenomenal job this year and he deserved to be in this situation. But to go out and do what D'Amico Ryans did in your rookie year with a rookie quarterback and a whole bunch of rookies all over the team, very, very impressive.
I'd agree with that. And I'm going to give you a couple more reasons why D'Amico Ryder probably didn't win that award. So the first one is the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Goes by the name of Will Anderson, defensive end for those Houston Texans.
Mm-hmm.
He leader. He's the leader on that team as a rookie, right? He didn't play every game, but he's a leader on the team as a rookie. He had 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and 22 QB hits, and missed 2 games. The only other person that you could even consider for this, and that would be Jalen Carter. I would say Will Anderson definitely outplayed Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter was gassed at the end of the season because his coaching staff was just foolish and didn't use him properly, right? But both of them had great rookie seasons, I think. But Will Anderson definitely was the right pick to me for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other guy that was kind of in the conversation in terms of like if you look at the first place votes was Kobe Turner, who also had a great year, but obviously most of the votes were between Anderson and Carter, and I agree. I think that they made the right choice.
Then we have Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, this is about as cut and dry, I feel, as you have, right? The only other person that we could even try to make an argument for, in my opinion, of course, is one Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
But we always know any award that's not MVP, right? Quarterback, great season, supersedes other positions most of the time. Real talk. And CJ Stroud had a great season. You know what I'm saying? He had 4,108 passing yards, third most behind Andrew Luck and Justin Herbert, right?
Mm-hmm.
In week 9, he threw for 470 yards, the most ever by a rookie quarterback. And there's other things that he did, of course, this season. And he started his career with 191 pass attempts without an interception. And then he also had led the league in touchdown to interception ratio 23-5. So this type of things from a rookie quarterback, unless you were going for 2,000 yards, you weren't going to even ever stop that, right? So, that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts on the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
No, I think they got that one right, man.
Yeah. And to me, this is part of the reason why you could try to make the argument, if you give him the best rookie on offense and the best rookie on defense, of course the team's going to be a lot better, right? And I'm not saying I feel that way. I'm just saying I could see a few people, the ones that made the difference in that voting in the first place vote, saying that, blah, 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 blah. You know how that goes. It's all pomp and circumstance where you have certain people making these decisions. You have a group of people just voting. That's how these decisions are made. But a lot of these came down to, I think, the right people. You can just say, maybe I felt like this person should have won over this person. But you're not seeing people in these conversations. You're saying there's no way he should be in that conversation. So that's what's important to me.
So the only thing I'm going to really add to that is I feel like that's a valid point, but I also feel like you could very easily turn around and say that the Browns had the comeback player of the year in Joe Flacco, and they also had the assistant of the year in Jim Schwartz. Well, so that does also make your job a little easier, right?
As if you were stealing my script, you could also make the argument against Stefanski because the defensive player of the year was defensive end Myles Garrett from those same Cleveland Browns.
Yes, we hadn't got there yet, so I didn't say it, but yes, I was thinking it.
Yes. So Garrett had 14 sacks. We're going to have the people that are going to complain about a certain individual that himself is upset because he had 19 sacks. So I want to address that real quick and say that
wait, AP's got something to say about it.
I just want to say, man, for me, I don't know. This is the I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem because of how great Cleveland's defense was in the regular season. But ranking seventh in sacks. It's tough. It's really tough. So
this is a tough one because defensive player of the year has almost always been a statistical award, right? It's almost always who has the most sacks, right?
mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to be honest here, if you ask me which guy I want on my team, which one was more disruptive throughout the year, it was Garrett.
Okay. AP says TJ Watt got robbed. A lot of people feel that way. Just want to remind people that last year there was a guy on my team had the most sacks in the league. Name Hassan Reddick. Didn't win the award. You know what people told me then? Oh, sacks is just a part of it. As defensive player of the year, it's what you overall contribute to the team and not just sacks. So I'm gonna throw the same thing back at you people.
Now I will just say, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, Reddick only led the league in sacks if you include postseason. For the regular season, Nick Bosa actually led the league.
I had to look it up. Thought he
Yeah,
led
I
the
think
regular
I
season.
think
From what
yeah,
from everything that was said in Philly, he led the regular season, but I'd have to look it up to make sure. But AP says both rookies won it like the Jets last year. That is very true.
mhm.
Damian chimes in. Everything was good except for MVP and Coach of the Year. And finally, Mongo gets some respect. AP says Cleveland's defense is good without Myles Garrett. TJ Watt is the defense.
But that kind of makes my point though, is that TJ Watt, I feel like gets a lot of his stats because he's the only one that can get them.
And then Damian says Jalen Johnson got robbed too. You can make that argument. And AP says to you, oh no, TJ Watt's stats and everything is better than Myles Garrett.
Again,
So I guess you.
but again, I go back. It's just like in basketball. You can take a decent player and put them on a bad team, and they look like a superstar.
True. And then we also know offensive player of the year. We got Christian McCaffrey, running back from the 49ers. No surprise about that. There wasn't anybody once Tyreek Hill did not get the 2,000 yards that was even close to competing with him for that award.
So I am going to tell you a little something I find absolutely funny about this, though, right? So if you look at the MVP voting, right, Dak Prescott had second place in the MVP race. He had 152 points. McCaffrey had 147. Okay. They both had the same number of second place votes. They both Prescott had one more third place vote. Neither had a first place vote. But then you go down to the offensive player of the year. McCaffrey just like ran away with it. Dak Prescott got 0 first place votes, 1 second, and 2/3. So you're telling me that Dak Prescott is number 2 in the MVP voting, but doesn't even get votes in the offensive player of the year? This is why no one respects these categories, because we all know that the offensive player of the year was basically Chris McCaffrey had a good argument to be the MVP of the league, but we're not going to give that to a non-quarterback, and so we're just handing this award to him.
Well, not only were they not going to give it to a non-quarterback, there was no way on God's green earth they were going to allow a running back to win the MVP award. No, so if you want to make a real argument as to why he didn't win, it's because they probably put out fillers and said, "Hey, I don't care what y'all put on these sheets. Christian McCaffrey is not going to be the MVP as a running back, and we're in the middle of devaluing that position.
Yeah.
So, choose wisely, or we will choose it for you." The people would argue that, oh, they don't do that cool, and you're just going overboard and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Believe what you will.
They definitely
Truth is truth.
Look, That's why I pointed out what I pointed out, right? Because you don't end up with a guy who is second in MVP voting, not even getting votes hardly for Offensive Player of the Year, unless that's why you're doing it.
He shouldn't even be in the MVP. But yeah,
I,
that's
I mean,
that's
I mean, I mean, listen. I'm not saying that Dak should have been number two in MVP. I'm just saying that the voting didn't make sense.
that should have been number 5. No, I'm just kidding. He definitely should have won. That MVP, of course, Lamar Jackson. Um, one of 5 players to win multiple MVPs in his first 6 seasons in the league. He joins Jim Brown, Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, and Patty Mayo. So kudos to Lamar. I think he did wrap it up later in the season. I think it was a contest between probably about 5 or 6 guys heading into about week 12, 13. But then he just had a better end to the season. And everyone's a prisoner of what they see lastly or what they perceive to be the best lastly. And that's how they make their decision.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think what it really came down to was the 49ers and Ravens game, right? Lamar went out, had a great game that game. Brock Purdy had a horrible game. I think at that point in the season, it was really between those two guys. And with Brock Purdy having a bad game and Lamar having a great game, that basically solidified the MVP for him right there.
What we can say is whatever you believe is the reason why he is your MVP.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. All right, so good people. Left to talk about. There's one simple thing. We got a game on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I've got a guy here who I think y'all know where he's going to go with this, but we'll even do it this way. What are your beliefs as to why your San Francisco 49ers are going to win this game? What do you believe that they're going to do that's going to put them in the driver's seat to win this game?
So, let me first start by just acknowledging the fact that this is going to be a very tough game, right? Kansas City is a very good team. They are experienced. They've been here multiple times. They are not going to fold the way the Green Bay Packers did and the way the Detroit Lions did, right? But guess what? The 49ers also are not going to fold. So neither one of these teams are going to go out there and punk the other team. These are going to be two teams that are going to show up. So when I start looking at the matchups in this game and I start asking myself, okay, where can we possibly get some advantages? I look at this and I say, okay, the offensive line for the 49ers, if we ask them to sit back and pass protection the entire game, it could be a problem, right? Patrick Mahomes is really good at like getting the ball out of his hands, and even when you think you've got him down, so it's not as big of a deal for them on the other side of it. But we do have to pressure, right? But I think when you start looking at the 49ers, what it comes down to is you got to get those guys running. The Chiefs have not played the run well this year. Even against the Ravens, they really had to stack the box to stop the running game in the AFC Championship. And the one difference between Baltimore and San Francisco to me is if you want to stack the box that way, if you want to come up and really try to stack and take away the run from San Francisco, well, there's 2 things. Number 1 is we'll run the ball anyways. We have actually run the ball against stacked fronts more than anybody this year, and we've been successful doing it, averaging over 4 yards a carry. But if you want to come up and do that, Brock Purdy has also shown that he's very good at finding those guys. And I was reading an article on the Ringer the other day that I thought was super interesting. It was saying how Kyle Shanahan is no longer really running the Shanahan offense per se. And it was talking about some of the evolutions of it. And in particular, they were saying how he's really started to use personnel to force the defense to have certain people on the field. So the mere fact that Kyle Juszczyk is out there makes you say, okay, they might run the ball. And so now you have to leave your heavy packages on the field. You have to come out there to try to stop the run because you don't know. And then what we're using is a lot of shifts and motions between Juszczyk and Christian McCaffrey and even with George Kittle that makes it look like we're going to run the ball. And we don't even have to fake a pass. We don't even have to fake a handoff. We can literally, it's like we're running play action. We get all the same benefits with the linebackers and everything getting out of position that you would on play action, but Brock Purdy never has to turn his back. To me, the biggest advantage that Kansas City's defense has had over their opponents this year has been they are showing you one thing pre-snap and then they are changing what they're doing. And so, especially when you try to get some kind of play action going, trying to get guys out, and your quarterback sees one thing, he turns his back and he turns around. Now there's something else in front of him. And he's got to make that quick decision. That's problematic. Brock Purdy's going to have the advantage that he's never going to have to turn his back. He's going to be able to see what's going on. And if, Kansas City's getting pressure off the right side, Brock Purdy can see that coming. He doesn't have to worry about the left side because he's got Trent Williams. So to me, those are really huge advantages. And the other big difference between us and Baltimore is, with all due respect to Zay Flowers, who was phenomenal this year, the 49ers weapons are better than what Baltimore had, right? Mark Andrews wasn't 100%. And they don't have a running back like Christian McCaffrey. And they don't have guys that can catch out the backfield like that. I mean, Juszczyk can catch out the backfield, McCaffrey, Kittle, you got Debo, you got IU. Of course, my boy Third and Jawan, he's going to make some big plays for you too. So to me, the 49ers have the weapons to take advantage of Kansas City's defense. And I think if it really comes down to it, Kansas City's weakness is going to be their wide receivers. So if the 49ers can put pressure on Patrick Mahomes, make him make throws a little sooner than he wants to, and we can establish the running game, we should win this game.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There's no point for me to talk about this game. I don't have a team in the fight. I will say this. You're a 49ers fan. If you're wanting the 49ers to win because you don't want the Chiefs to win, you're hoping that the 49ers organization went ahead and shot some money to the referees as well, because we know the Chiefs did. And we're hoping that the 49ers picked a big number to shoot them so that they could at least be big enough to make them get some calls. Damian says, funny how Lamar gets the MVP the same day his wide receiver gets arrested. Laugh out loud.
Funny how the 49ers get a subpar practice field and people pulling fire alarms and everything else when we're playing the Chiefs.
Again, fly Eagles fly is all I'm going to say. I'm not going to do this to myself again. I have forgiven my team for being horrible, for playing like trash the last half of the season, embarrassing me, because I feel like they're going to do it again next year. So there's no point in holding the negativity from this year and adding it to more that's going to happen next year. So I have to clean my slate. I hope they prove me wrong, but that's how I feel. So with that being said, good people, make sure you tell 2 of your friends, 4 of your enemies. They need to come and check us out. Just because they don't like you won't mean they don't like us. And along with several other people, I just want to say, #we want Cody. Damian says, I hope 49ers win a blowout and Taylor Swift breaks up with Kelsey. Laugh out loud. That would be interesting.
I mean, listen, I don't care if she breaks up with him or not, but I hope that we win a blowout.
Not surprised by that at all. And we out.